Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. Got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
What is good, y'all? Back on the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Austin, obviously. I'm the host. And, if you're here, that means you are tuned in to the Patreon, and I appreciate you for that. Thank you for popping in and checking out some extra segments of fantasy football from us. We stay in the lab, always looking for good value and, just the hottest takes that we can find on this podcast, and that's all we do. So without further ado, you see the title on the screen. Let's just get into my rookie radar. Rookies that I'm looking to target possibly, and just guys who are doing a good job in the NFL right now, being in their first year. And I would be remiss to not start off by talking about Bijan Robinson, who it just looks electric out there. I'll kind of save my take for the end, but Bijan Robinson is currently the running back number 6 at the moment in fantasy football right now in PPR leagues. He's doing a lot in the receiving game, also doing enough in the rushing game to hold him over. Obviously, Algier is kind of in there working into his workload a little bit, but this guy's definitely electric, and it's a sight to see, to watch him play. He did have a bit of a rough week in week 3. He went for 10 carries, 33 yards, also added in 4 receptions for 27 yards, and this guy's literally one of the most talented guys I've seen in a very long time, probably since this is a bit of a hot take, but since like Adrian Peterson. I really haven't seen an explosive type player who can come out of the backfield and then also receive. Obviously, AP wasn't on his receiving grind like this guy, and he's showing a ton of upside, getting past the ball, which we absolutely love to see. He looks extremely special. He has 4 receptions in his first 3 weeks each game, so 4 receptions at least in every single game. So that's absolutely nice. Definitely has top 1% burst of anybody in the league. If you watch his first touchdown that he had in his first game, it was impressive to say the least. It was absolutely crazy. Skirted this guy, didn't touch him, juke move into the end zone, and it was all in the blink of an eye. That was the second that I wanted to trade for Bijan Robinson and have him on my team. It has not happened yet, but I'm definitely going to be in there looking for trades, and I will talk to y'all about that more on my trade targets, which is the second segment of the Patreon here. But guys, defenses simply don't have an answer for Bijan Robinson in space. I have him as my offensive rookie of the year, the lead candidate to win. So watch out for Bijan Robinson. He's going to take the league by storm if he stays healthy. Lord willing, he will, and we'll just be in here for the show to witness greatness. Next guy for rookie radar we're going to hit is Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr had a bit of a slow start, but that was by design, head coach Dan Campbell said. And, nothing wrong with starting a guy a little slower. Obviously, they had a workhorse in Montgomery who was sitting down in this week 3. In week 1, Jahmyr Gibbs started with 9 touches. Week 2 increased a little bit to the 14 touches. Week 3 went to 18 touches, so only going up. Something that we love to see as fantasy owners. Touches going up is all that we're really looking to see. We want more opportunities for our guys, and that's the most important thing. He also showed that he has the rushing ability. He's not just a receiving back, because most of his week 2 touches came from the air, and he only got 1 reception in week 3 as to 17 carries in week 3 because Montgomery's out. Obviously, Montgomery probably will be carrying most of that rushing workload for that Lions offense, but 17 carries, that looks real good. I think this guy's just bound to break off a couple big games soon. He has that home run speed, that home run potential to just take it to the crib, 80 yards by himself, and I really do see that happening. His Bama highlights, his Bama college tape, one of the most impressive I've seen in a very long time too. He looks like Alvin Kamara out there just on the college field. He was really good at Georgia State and then even better at Bama. Next rookie we're going to hit real quick, and one who's performing very, very well in a explosive offense with the Vikings is Jordan Addison, currently ranked as wide receiver number 21 in fantasy football right now. Turning in some solid performances in weeks 1 through 3, and the targets are just simply there. He's getting the workload, and that means you probably have to play him on your fantasy team if you have him. Week 1, 16 fantasy points. Week 2 followed it up, 16 more fantasy points. Had a touchdown in both of those games too. And then week 3 came down to earth just a little bit with 11 fantasy points. No touchdown, but had a season-high 8 targets, which is great for him. In my opinion, he does look a little bit fragile. I looked up his metrics, and he is a 5'11", 175-pound wide receiver. And unfortunately, he doesn't have like that elite speed that you'd be looking for from a guy that is that small. He's only running a 4.55 40-yard dash. Still very shifty, though, if you watch his tape. Very shifty. If he was playing basketball, I would say he had a quick first step. And he also has some very soft hands to make grabs that other receivers simply wouldn't be able to get. And just a good possession wide receiver. Good flex play in any league. I'm sure if you got him and you invested your pick in him, that you're able to get him a little later. So hopefully you don't have to start him at your wide receiver 2 in case he starts falling off and Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson start taking all that action in the Vikings offense. But until further notice, it seems like they don't have a ton of rushing upside on that Vikings offense. So he's probably still a pretty good guy to play in the near future. Next guy we're going to hit, and he was the guy that everybody was raving about in week 1, the rookie that first popped out. I guess Bijan also popped out in week 1, but Zay Flowers had an amazing week 1 and kind of has been going downhill since then in that Baltimore offense. He is currently wide receiver number 25 in fantasy, and he doesn't have any touchdowns yet on the year, which I'm sure is going to change at some point. He's too electric, too fast, too twitchy. I call him Baby Tyreek Hill, but he's too good to not be in the end zone at least like 5 or 6 times this year. So watch out for that. Seems like 2 pretty quiet weeks after an impressive debut. He was going week 1. He had the 9 receptions for 87 yards, which was like 17 fantasy points. Week 2 went 4 receptions for 62 yards, and then week 3, 8 receptions for 48 yards. Just standard stuff. He hasn't found a way to make a really big play yet, but like I said, that's definitely coming. Still has 25 targets through the first 3 weeks, plus he has scored in double digits for fantasy owners in every single week. He's a number one. He's a number 1 wide receiver, and that's not going to change until a guy like Rashad Bateman or Odell Beckham steps up. And Odell's dealing with the injuries. Seems like Rashad Bateman is too. Mark Andrews obviously is there, but I think he's always going to be getting his targets while he's in the offense. This is a guy that signed a $7 million signing bonus on his first check. So obviously they're invested in him. They're going to be playing him all the time, and he's going to get targets all the time as well. Got 2 more rookies that I want to hit. This guy, we don't really know about his fantasy output yet, but his workload is definitely increasing, so that's good to see. And I'm talking about Zach Charbonnet. He is ranked as the 56th running back in fantasy right now, and in week 2 he went for 6 touches. Week 3 was upgraded to 10 touches, so just a bit of upside. Definitely not somebody I'm looking to start by any means. Supposedly he was brought in as like the receiving back for the Seahawks squad, but has only 3 catches through 3 weeks, so definitely hasn't shown that receiving upside. His coach was saying that he's going to be the one to handle it, and Kenneth Walker was the one getting the receiving yards in the most recent game. So we'll see how that plays out. Like I said, I don't think he has any fantasy value yet, but he is rostered in 40% of leagues. So if you think about it, probably rostered in almost every 12-team league. And if he's not rostered, obviously the popular opinion would tell you to pick him up. But, you don't always need to listen to the popular opinion either. Not someone I'd be looking to trade for, but just someone I wanted to mention in the rookie radar because he looks explosive. He had a really good run at the end of the game, almost got into the end zone, but stepped out right at the end. And he also played at Michigan, so I like him a lot. Last guy I want to hit for rookies is going to be Josh Downs. He's definitely one of my favorite rookies as it pertains to the NFL. He's absolute hooper, dog, all those things. He was actually someone I predicted last week to finally pop off and have a good week, and he finally did do that, putting up 13.7 fantasy points on 8 receptions for 57 yards. He also acquired 12 targets in that game. So obviously Anthony Richardson wasn't in, so it was Gardner Minshew running around the field, and he was looking for him often, which is a great sign. This is a guy that just gets open a lot. If you watch his North Carolina tape, and I've talked about this guy multiple times before, it's just impressive. He's not the fastest guy. He's not even the most shifty or elusive athlete, and he just finds a way to, drop in these zones or even beat his one-on-one coverage to get open. I, see a big career for this guy and see a big season for him probably as well if he can find that connection with Anthony Richardson. When we come back, we're going to hit my trade targets, so definitely come back. No time to waste on this show. Absolutely none. And let's get it up. We're going to be talking about trade targets. People that I'm looking to trade for mainly. Not really people that I'm looking to trade away. Maybe we'll hit that on one of the next Patreon segments for sure. But let's just get right into it. And I'm talking about DeAndre Swift. And guys, I literally had this written up before he popped off in week 3. Obviously that happened. That I'm recording that tonight on September 25th, and I just really like this guy. Obviously I'm a Lions fan through and through, and he was really big for us. It looks like he's taking that potential over to the Eagles, running behind a beautiful offensive line with Jason Kelce and all those guys, Landon Dickerson. Week 2 went for 28 carries, 175 yards, and the touchdown, showing that home run speed, that home run agility, and the ability to run through the tackles and not just be like a runner that has to run on the edge every single time. He's showing that he can do it between the guard and between the tackle. So very nice to see. This week 3 performance tonight, he put up 16 carries for 130 yards, which is also going to get it done. That sounds like a lot of yards per carry. I can't even do the math on that, but 16 carries, 130 divided by 16 seems like a pretty big number to me. He is now the lead back for the Eagles, and it looks like he's going to get the nod most games to go ahead and lead them in the rushing department. Obviously, they're going to have a guy like Gainwell, who got a couple carries tonight. Boston Scott was nowhere to be found tonight from as far as I saw, and same with Rashad Penny. He had the helmet on, but it doesn't look like they really like him. That's a former first-round pick. Kind of surprising to see that he's not getting any run behind that really good offensive line. Seems like Swift and Penny could be a good 1-2 punch. But I'm definitely looking to trade for Swift if, a fantasy manager would allow that to happen. I don't know, if he was on my team, I'm not letting him go anywhere right now, but maybe for a nice offer, some guys I wrote down that I would, be willing to trade him for DeAndre Swift would be a guy like Mike Evans, a guy like Joe Mixon, maybe Puka Nacua, and maybe Jahmyr Gibbs if someone was, maybe a nice package, a 2-for-1, because obviously DeAndre Swift's stock is very high right now, but I think his ceiling has yet to be reached, even with that 175-yard performance behind that offensive line and his speed, his agility. Anything is possible for DeAndre Swift this year, so watch out. My next trade target, and really like this guy, he's currently sitting at fantasy running back number 8, and that's James Conner. James Conner put up a crazy performance. I talked about it earlier in the live show, but had 14 carries, 98 yards, and the touchdown, I believe. Don't even have that written down. That's straight off of memory. Yeah. But this guy really seems to be heating up early in the year. This guy runs very, very hard, probably harder or as hard as anybody in the league from a running back. From the running back spot, probably runs harder than anybody. Also, someone who's getting 15 to 20 touches a game, and that's really just what you want to see from your fantasy players. Always looking for more opportunities for my guys. If your guys get 15 to 20 touches and your opponent's guys get 10 to 12 touches, you're just going to have an edge to win every single week. So you want more guys who are doing that for your team and less guys that are, touching the ball less. It's a very simple math equation. But as far as James Conner, this guy really does look like the backbone of this new Jonathan Gannon offense. If you didn't know, Jonathan Gannon was previously the Eagles offensive coordinator, and they're trying to bring him in early. And I think he actually got in trouble for tampering, or the Cardinals got in trouble for tampering, and they had to swap picks with each other, the Cardinals and the Eagles, because they were in contact with him too early, which was kind of an interesting thing that I thought would be interesting to talk about. But like I said, James Conner just looks like he gets mandatory touches every game in this offense, and Jonathan Gannon really trusts him. The type of guys that I would give up to get Conner would be a guy like Jerry Jeudy or Terry McLaurin, a guy like even Josh Jacobs, who's not showing us a lot. Don't mind to even sell low on Josh Jacobs. He should be getting touches, but I don't know. James Conner just looks like he's running much harder than Josh Jacobs right now, in my opinion. Talking trade targets. We got to talk about Puka Nacua. He kind of had a slight drop-off tonight in Week 3 after 2 record-breaking historical appearances in Weeks 1 and 2. Week 3 only put up 12.2 fantasy points after Weeks 1 and 2, putting up 21.9 and 30.1 respectfully. And in Week 3 only came up with 5 receptions for 72 yards. He also apparently had a deep ball that was, he was completely uncovered, blown, and that was at the end of the game. So probably should have finished with much less yards from that standpoint. But people may be looking to sell Nacua after just having one, iffy type performance. Still good, but pretty iffy from a volume perspective. I still think he's a great wide receiver too. Continuing out through the year, I don't see how he doesn't keep getting work even when Cooper Kupp does come back. I even believe when Cooper Kupp comes back that he'll probably be free more often, and he's already proven himself as someone that can get the job done. So I know a guy like Sean McVay is not going to go away from someone who has really proven himself. So Puka Nacua definitely would be, either looking to, this is the guy I would be looking to either trade for value or trade for less value, because you can kind of use the angle of, he had an iffy week this week, so maybe his value isn't what we think it is. I'll offer you, I don't know, Jordan Addison, guy like that, something like that. Probably plus a piece, because obviously Puka Nacua is hooping on top 5 levels right now. But you got to be shooting your shot in the trade DMs constantly. I can't shoot the shots for you. Only you can do that. Next, I want to talk about Bijan Robinson, who obviously hit in the rookie radar, who is definitely a guy that I'm looking to trade for. I'll be putting in trades for Bijan Robinson tonight probably. Currently the running back 8, running back 6 right now as of Week 3. Only put up 10 fantasy points, so it's a great time to try to get the trade in and, see if guys will take the bait. That's really all it's about. You got to convince your people that you're in the league with to make these trades and why it's good for them. Got to have a bit of a sales tactic mentality as it comes to trades, and make sure you're shooting more shots than your opponents, more trade shots. But Bijan Robinson, as far as Bijan Robinson, still got 14 touches in week 3. Not too bad. We're looking for 15 to 20 constantly, and he does pretty much fit that mold every single game, even with Algier being in there working into, the backfield work. Like I said, I'll be taking stabs at Bijan for sure. And I might give up anybody to acquire Bijan. I might give up anybody on my roster to get Bijan Robinson just because he's that good. He's that explosive. Like I said, haven't seen a guy as explosive as Bijan since probably Adrian Peterson, which is big, big praise because Adrian Peterson was obviously a freak. He could run all day. Next guy we're going to hit is Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, somebody I'm looking to trade for. If y'all don't know, this is the Deebo Samuel show, and I talk about Deebo Samuel pretty much every single day. He did it again on Sunday. What do you know? Currently wide receiver 6 in fantasy football, and after an impressive week 2, turning in 6 receptions for 63 yards, he also added 5 carries for 38 yards and the touchdown in the week 2 performance. Followed that up with 6 receptions for 129 yards and the touchdown. Didn't even need to do it on the ground today because he was just all through the air. Ended up with 25.1 fantasy points in that game. Deebo is balling out of control right now and says he's as healthy as he can be. That's what he said after the week 3 win on Thursday night. So definitely good signs for his health. That's really the only question when it comes to Deebo, in my opinion. Still one of the best athletes in the entire league on a very impressive offense where he's technically the number 1 wide receiver with Ayuk being injured. Sometimes Brock Purdy does lean towards Ayuk more than Deebo Samuel, but right now he's definitely leaning Samuel, and he's coming up for him. Hopefully they're building that trust, and that can stick through the whole season. And, he'll be someone I'm looking to trade for too. He's on one of my teams, but I might just try to go get him in my other team too. Lastly, I believe, maybe a couple more. Nah, this is last. Lastly, kind of a sleeper guy who had a really good week this week, at least, in my opinion. Currently sitting at running back 20, and that's Isaiah Pacheco. This game that he had kind of leads me to believe that they're just going to be relying on him in those situations where they're up a bunch, which should happen a lot for this Chiefs offense. I don't think I wrote his stats down, but he had 15 plus carries for a bunch of yards and a touchdown. It's going to get it done. It's just simply going to get it done for a running back 2 flex type play. I would love to have him in there instead of, and that's kind of the question. Do I go with Jerick McKinnon now that I saw a big performance from him in week 3, or do I stick with Pacheco? Obviously, they were playing against the Bears, so numbers are just going to be blown out of proportion because their team is so bad and the Chiefs had the ball so often. They put up 35 points in the first half, which is just ridiculous and mean towards the other team. Very mean. But as far as Isaiah Pacheco goes, this dude's literally one of the game's biggest tryhards. I don't see anybody else making faces like him while he's running, and it seems like he's exerting a lot of energy every single time that he touches the ball, and I can appreciate that for sure. Also seems to be a 12 to 15 touches a game type guy, so someone I would absolutely love to plug into my flex position. People that would be looking to trade for a guy like Isaiah Pacheco would be maybe like a Cortland Sutton or David Montgomery, Tyler Algier, or a Gabe Davis. Just some names that I wrote down. Probably still need to package because, I don't know, his stock hasn't really flown up yet, so you could probably get a steal on this one. Just another guy that I like. I hope y'all enjoyed my trade targets on this episode of the Patreon. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you later.